Hey guys, let's talk CF research studies.
I got cystic fibrosis. See, I've got cystic fibrosis.
Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Happy October 9th to many of you, or all of you, I should say. So I don't know if you have had a chance to watch Miranda's video from yesterday, but we are talking CF research studies. Sort of our experiences with them, how we feel about them, are they important, are they not, sort of what is just our feelings about them. So let's go ahead and dive right in. For me, I am a huge fan of CF research studies, or research studies in general. I think that they provide a valuable asset to not just our community of CF people, but as a chronic illness community as a whole, right? Without drug trials or research studies, we wouldn't have things like Kalydeco or Symdeco or Orkambi or Pulmozyme or Caistin or hypertonic saline or any of those other drugs that you may take to help treat the effects of CF, right? Like the modulators treat the underlying cause, but some of these other drugs just sort of help manage the disease. And so without drug trials or research studies, none of that would be possible. So with that said, I'm a huge fan. I have had the fortunate opportunities to participate in a drug trial for Orkambi when it was in phase 3. I was fortunate enough to be able to enroll and get accepted to that trial. Ultimately, as I'm sure you guys have heard if you've watched our channel for a while now, Orkambi did not work for me. I got severe chest tightness when I was on it during the phase 3 section and then into the rollover of the study. So ultimately it did not work for me. But I think that that experience, not only for me was valuable, but for that drug in general. And as they were, studying that final phase 3 of it to make sure that it still held up and was safe and effective and worked for some people, that while it didn't work for me, the ability that I was able to participate in it and have, side effects, whether they were good or bad, or in my case they were bad, that was part of that trial and was being able to be documented and recorded as something that happened, as an event in that. So that's valuable feedback for anything. I've also had the ability right now, I've been working with a team at my clinic where they are testing a sweat chloride sensor that provides real-time data to an iPhone. So instead of having to go have a sweat chloride test, sit there, have them take the samples, and then send it off to a lab to get tested, this sends the feedback right to an iPhone so you can see right then and there, right? And if this ends up working, it can be valuable in the sense that when you have an infant or a late diagnosis, you could get tested right there and find out instantaneously versus having to wait. Or with different drugs, you can, test the sweat chloride levels as you take those and see if they're working, right, to balance out, to reduce the levels of sweat chloride, which means that we're managing, that the cells are working more properly, and so we're managing the disease better or treating that underlying defect. It can also be valuable for things like folks with CF or just in general of anybody, but mainly for people with CF during sports. If you had the ability to track your sweat chloride levels while you were exercising or whatever, you could realize how much salt or sodium that you actually had to put back into your system, so because you would know how much you were losing. So all valuable information. So there's not just those, big trials like modulators. There's ones for pancreatic enzymes. There's ones for anti-inflammatories. There's drug trials for a couple of different medicines that may help treat antibiotic-resistant microorganisms or organisms, right? Like certain the bacteria and the viruses that don't have any drugs that can treat them because they become resistant. So there's a whole host of trials that you can get into or research studies to help provide that insight to the researchers and the pharmaceutical companies who are putting these on. And the more people we have enrolled in them, the more drugs that can be brought into research trial phases, and then the more drugs that hopefully maybe can get to us or end users through that process. So, drug trials can be frustrating too, right? Because a lot of times they have requirements to get into them. For a lot of your bigger ones, like the modulators, a lot of times there's a level, lung function level, right, that you have to meet. And so for a lot of them, it's 40%. So somebody like me who sits in the low 30s, I don't have the opportunity to participate in a lot of those because my lung function is not high enough, which is unfortunate because some of those could really benefit somebody with lower lung function, but that's the way it is. It's a safety precaution. Sometimes some of the clinics near you don't always offer clinical trials, and so if you want to get into one, you may have to commute a far distance. So, those are drawbacks to them, and obviously there's always sort of that uncertainty of, is this drug going to work? Am I going to maybe have to come off of some of my other treatments right now to participate in this study? All concerns that you have, right, as we work so hard every day to maintain our health that, there's that concern by enrolling in a study, am I going to have to stop doing one of my treatments, or, am I potentially going to make myself sick because I'm going to be focusing on the drug in this trial or whatever it is that I'm, participating in this trial, and that may adversely affect what I'm currently doing that's maintaining my health. All valid concerns. The one thing that I will say is that when you enroll in these trials, you always have the option to stop the trial. So if you start getting sick or you feel like it's interacting with medicines, you can always stop it. That's your right to stop it. And so for me, for instance, when I had the adverse effects to Orkambi and started to get really sick during the rollover portion of the trial that I was in, I ended up having to stop taking the drug. And that's what was right for me, for my health, and for my care team. And so we stopped that. Was it disappointing? Of course it was disappointing, right? Because you wait so long for this modulator, and it doesn't work for you. But that's part of the process. And so I guess what I would say is, just because maybe you can't get into some of these bigger, flashier trials like the one for the triple pill, or you don't have the right lung function, there are trials out there and other ways to get involved with research. For instance, the CF patient registry, which a lot of people, I hope most people, fill out once a year, that gets collected, and researchers from other places actually get access to that registry information. Now, it doesn't have your name or anything associated with it, but they get access to that information, and they can use it in their own research studies to study correlations and impacts that they might be able to find through this huge pool of years and years and years of research and data. So that's participating in a research study. Potentially, providing blood or mucus samples that somebody sends off and studies for different things, that's participating in a research study. So all those are valuable, even though it may not be some big flashy trial. And so I guess what I would say is, anytime that you have the ability to provide something for the community as a whole, I think is very valuable. So that was sort of a long, meandering train of thought for me on CF research. But I will say as I close, if you are interested in clinical trials and different research opportunities, the foundation, the CF Foundation, has a great tool called the Clinical Trial Finder. You can go on to their website, and it's not hard to find the Clinical Trial Finder. Once you click on that, you can put in your zip code, you can put in your state, you can search in different mile radiuses of what trials are out there. You can search by your mutation, you can search by the different trial areas like modulators or anti-inflammatories or pancreatic enzymes, whatever it may be. You can narrow that search if you want, but then you can find the list of trials that are within 45 miles of you or 150 miles of you or whatever it is, and see if there's one that's right for you that you want to participate in, because you never know if it may benefit you or if it may benefit the community as a whole. And like I said, the more people we have doing trials, the better chance we have of more drugs and treatments getting to the market that can benefit all of us in the CF community, and potentially even larger throughout the entire sort of chronic illness or illness community. So I hope that if you haven't, you will take the time to potentially enter one. If you have, I'd love to hear your feedback on what you feel about clinical trials, why you haven't done one. If you have, what has your experience has been? Obviously, there's sometimes if you're in one, confidentiality issues, and you can't talk about specific drug trials and stuff like that. But we'd love to hear your feedback. So with that said, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful week. And I look forward to talking to you guys again real soon. So thanks a lot. Take care.
I got cystic fibrosis. See, I've got cystic fibrosis.